What's the thing that the other person brings to music that you don't, but you wish you had?
I guess it's like Mr. and Mrs., isn't it?
Welcome to the XS Noize Podcast, the chart-topping music interview show. I'm your host, Mark Millar. In this episode, I'm joined by Andrew Davie from Birdsong and Northern Irish singer-songwriter Ciaran Lavery to talk about their new collaborative EP, Promiser. If you missed our last episode, I spoke with Maddie and Gustav from the dream pop duo Moon Panda about their new album, Dumb Luck. So check it out. And don't forget to follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Recorded over 5 days in Andrew's home studio, Promiser is intimate, raw, and deeply human. A record about love, connection, and the beauty in small moments. So let's get into it. This is Birdsong and Ciaran Lavery on the XS Noize Podcast. Hi, Davie. Hi, Ciaran. Welcome to the XS Noize Podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
It's brilliant to have you here. First off, congratulations on the release of Promiser. This feels like a really different kind of record, stripped down, raw, almost accidental. How did the idea of working together first begin?
We initially met because I was opening for Birdsong on their European tour. So that was kind of the first time I met Davie, and obviously being the opening act, I try to ensure that I'm just sort of like a bit of a shadow, or just trying not to intrude on anything, and also not kind of step on any toes. But the group of people that are together in terms of that crew that travel with in the Birdsong kind of gang, it's almost impossible to avoid them in a way, and I mean this in the best possible way, because I've been on tours where you have next to no contact with the main act, and that's fine. I mean, it's not expected to become, that it's going to blossom into a friendship. But Davie and those guys very much have this ecosystem and this bubble that you're drawn into, and so I find it just really beautiful to be around, because it was 3 weeks. It could have been a very lonely 3 weeks, but it was really good fun. And it's around and in the middle of that time, Davie and I just started chatting. And it was all very casual. I think it was long after that tour that we actually had a conversation about potentially writing together. And even then, we didn't really have any kind of plan going in. And it took I think for us to kind of sit down and have a bit of a tactical, I guess, discussion around, either we arrived with preconceived ideas versus blank sheet of paper. And so we chose the latter, and it was kind of born from that, and just going over to spend time in Davie's place with his family as well, which was really beautiful. And yeah, I think, unless Davie, you have any nice anecdotes in the middle.
No, just I think I remember it really well. I think I just also like to say that on tour, it's not always that everyone gets on so well with the bands that we're on tour with and the artists that we're on tour with. And I think everyone just connected with Ciaran's music, but also Ciaran is hilarious and, and lovely and insanely talented. And it was just I think for us, it's not always that fun, but it was a really fun tour. And I think my memory as well, just bonding over not just music as well, just talking about writing in general, talking about things we were reading and stuff. And I think just building a kind of base level of friendship, which I think is one of the things that's always scared me a bit about co-writing, is write a song instantly with no rapport with someone. But I felt like we built that, and there was a genuine trust there already, and that kind of allowed things to happen quite quickly, and that was really special.
Ciaran, as I said, it's great to have you back as well. Last time we spoke was about your album Light Entertainment. So how does this collaboration feel creatively and emotionally from that?
I mean, in terms of the approach to it, it couldn't have been any different, which I really loved. A lot of the records that, again, Davie and I bonded over, and there was a lot of discussion of Will Oldham and the kind of everything that he has released under his Bonnie Prince Billy guys and anything that he has worked on. We had this kind of joint admiration for people who just approached the process with all of the the flaws attached to the actual recording. And so Light Entertainment was very kind of methodical. And I think, again, having been on that tour with Birdsong, I know that Davie was kind of coming off the back of something really similar in terms of high production. And so this felt like a breath of fresh air. It almost felt like pulling it back to those teen years of just sitting at the end of the bed trying to write a song and not really thinking of anything beyond the, one instrument or limited instrumentation and vocals. So that for me, just personally, was really refreshing because it puts there's a lot of pressure and focus on the song to be able to stand up on its own 2 feet. But at the same time, it felt like it immediately had its own identity, and there was a difference between what I was doing in my own work and also I think what Davie was doing and had been doing with the band. And so I think it made it easier for us to create something that felt like, both of us and also larger than us.
From your own perspectives, what drew you to each other's songwriting and artistry?
I really admired Davie's work as a songwriter because of the kind of the way that this very personal style of songwriting can affect so many people. And I think as a songwriter as well, Davie has this very unique quality where his message can be seen as being universal, but I think if you dig underneath the surface, there's so many layers to that. It's so very dark. And I really admire that he writes without this kind of I guess a feeling that you have to forego some emotional areas because you've maybe got a fan base who are like wide reaching, and so I think it's incredible that he's able to write in this very personal way. And again, having chats with him, I learned so much in terms of what was behind the songs, and that only kind of helped to sort of grow that admiration, especially when out there playing shows with them, there are 1,500 people singing every word, and I'm thinking, do they know what they're singing? Those psychopaths.
That's amazing. That's the nicest thing and funniest thing ever. I feel very humbled by that, Ciaran. That's really, really lovely. One thing I really got from working with Ciaran, I already really loved Ciaran's style of songwriting. Ciaran has an ability to have a sense of humor in songwriting, which I think is maybe one of the hardest things to do. And also, this has a way of disarming you and then catching you off guard in a way that I think is just really hard to do. And it sort of speaks to the fact that he's it's so far beyond just songwriting in terms of his interest. Ciaran's a really, really great writer as well. So I think that's you can tell. And yeah, I think working super close with Ciaran as well, that was one of the main things I got from it. Is when I write songs, often I'm revisiting some difficult traumatic episode or something, which is quite a sort of not the healthiest way of being creative. And I think Ciaran has this ability to write about a lot of different things and shed interesting layers and light onto it and bring depth and bring levity and gravity to everything. It's it's real art and it's conversational. It reminds me of one book of poems we talked about, like Billy Collins, but Frank O'Hara esque poetry, where it kind of just feels off the cuff, but then it's not. It's Promiser to me is oh, it just feels kind of frivolous or whatever, but it's not. There's a lot of depth in there, I think. And I say that as the person next to the guy who's writing a lot of those lyrics. And so yeah, I getting to see that up close was just, I learned loads. So yeah.
Davie, You've talked about wanting to write songs that celebrate love in the simplest ways, no conflict, no drama. And Ciaran, you said that you wanted to strip away the mechanics. Did that shared simplicity feel freeing or even a bit exposing at times?
From my perspective, I was finding it very hard to write at the time. I wasn't really creatively hitting my stride on my own at all. I didn't really feel up to writing the next Bears Den record or solo stuff, really. And so I think when we started talking about it and started talking about like, why don't we make something that's not like bound to like really difficult emotions or feelings, that felt really freeing to me. And I think before we started working just from a blank page, we were also sending songs back and forth a little bit. And Ciaran was just sending so many great ideas. And I just found it really inspiring. And yeah, just the more we talked and the more we didn't kind of go down the road of like, this needs to be about tragedy. This can actually just be quite, vulnerable, but I don't know how to put it. I think there is a marriage between the sort of simplicity of that and the vulnerability of that I think is really beautiful. Yeah, I found it both freeing and a bit vulnerable as well. So that'd be my take.
Honestly, I completely agree. I think the one potentially something that people could take for granted, and I think if I was a bit younger, I maybe would have thought that writing songs that don't have a lot of production around them feels like an easier process when actually sitting down together and trying to kind of find finding the united voice, I think was easy enough. But being able to, I guess, like being able to stand by every single lyric and not kind of, being a pair of Brian Wilsons and being like, is that line the line? And we did spend a bit of time. Remember, we took a break at one point. I actually remember this the other day. We took a break from being in the studio. We went and we sat at the kitchen table like a couple of businessmen and just went through every single line. And it's the first time I've done that where I've sat across the table and we literally just critiqued everything. And without an instrument, we just read it on a page and tried to make sure or ensure, both ourselves and collectively, is that the best that can be? And so there's so much strength, I think, in the simplicity because there are a million ways of saying things. And, what I really enjoyed about that process is this kind of the constant challenge of and working with someone of Davie's kind of that skill set and experience, but to still, to not sort of feel like the first line's fine or we'll get them in the chorus. It kind of, these songs were really put through the ringer in terms of, is this exactly what we want to say and is it the best way that we want to say it? And
can I jump in on this? Because we had a moment, I think, with Nervous Hands, the song, second line, and I was like, it's possible. And you were like, I don't know. And it was funny to me looking back on it because we like had a really good chat about like what we were like what's behind like the song for both of us. And it was different things. And then it's just funny to me that the line we then came to was like, our whole family, Nervous Hands was like the lyric, and the song became called Nervous Hands. It was like the key that unlocked the whole like, it was, and that to me was just like embodied that process you were just talking about. Like, I thought that was a really special moment as well. I was thinking about it the other day, and that it became the title just feels like speaks to what you're saying, like that level of like checking things. So cool.
It was interesting you mentioned the production. The EP feels like an antidote to the overproduced side of modern music. Do you think listeners are craving this kind of intimacy right now?
I think like there's a time and a place for both things, but I think from the sounds of things, where we were both at creatively was like, it's time to like maybe not have, I don't know, like when the last Bears Den record, I remember at one point looking at the session that we were working on, and it was like high strung acoustic guitar part 3 or something. And you're just like, right, so not only have you got quite an abstract instrument being played, you've got 3 different ones doing different things. And yeah, I think I love making records that really go for it with all the bells and whistles. We kind of wanted to keep it a small thing. Like I don't think we had really grand ambitions for it sonically. It was about the songwriting. It was about our way of writing together. And I don't think the idea of going to like a big snazzy studio just felt a bit weird to us. And I think we didn't want to like spend loads of money, and we didn't want to like just go down this road of like excess. It was like, let's just keep this fun and easy. And we just did it here. And it was like we didn't really even need to listen back to stuff. It was kind of just like record it, get the levels right, sit down, and just look at each other and be like, did that feel good? And it's like, yeah, that felt good. Cool, let's move on to the next thing. It didn't feel like, let's laboriously, like, take things apart. It was, there really wasn't overdub. It's like, yeah, I don't know if this is like take 2 or 3, but I think we did like maybe 3 or 4 takes of this one in total. And yeah, there's no cuts or edits, it's just that. And then we got some pals to play some extra parts, and which add a lot. Joshua Burnside and Emma Gatrill on fiddle and bass clarinet on this one, and harp as well, from Emma. But it's not like a lot of, there's a simplicity to that as well, which I think spoke to like the way we also had written the songs.
Yeah, and I like the way you captured the songs as well. You let the rain, the birds, and all the background noises seep in. There's a bit of ambience there.
Yeah, that was really fun as well. Like, I think I remember I was having a conversation about whether to have the door open or not on the rain one. But yeah, yeah.
Promiser feels like the anchor song. Can you tell me the story of how it came together and why it set the tone for the EP?
Yeah, I think I will always remember this process because it felt like lightning in a bottle in terms of, because we definitely tried to replicate it and it didn't work. After we thought this is the way that we're going to write, and after that point it felt like, okay, that was the way to write that song. But we literally said, I think, like, where Davie's sitting now side by side, I had a laptop, he was playing guitar melody over and over, and I just had like a document open. It was just kind of free writing. I can't remember if we had much of a discussion in terms of like did we have a discussion about what we wanted to talk about, Davie, in advance?
You had a title of a song, and I don't know how fully formed that song was. I can't remember now, but maybe a demo even of a thing called Promiser. And I feel like you had that as a title or a line or something maybe. And I just remember us both going like, there's something in that. Like, I don't know. And then maybe I'm misremembering, but that's like how I remember it. And then us kind of going from there. And then you kind of going like, yeah, but I'll start again. Like, and then kind of like 10 minutes later, like this pretty much unchanged lyric came out.
And it was really rare, especially working, I think, with someone else as well, because my feeling was that, well, there may be something in here that's of value, and being able to, like, quite literally, just as Davie's kind of like trying to figure out a melody and playing the guitar at the same time, and I was just trying to like almost like hold on to the coattails of that, and then just passing the laptop. And then Davie would then choose when the breaks would be, because they were very, very long sentences across a page. And I remember trying to write in a way that didn't have that sort of like song structure where, you could tell when you read on a page where someone is kind of trying to inform you where the verse is, where the chorus is, and even like the length of these things where, it's very much like, here are the limitations, and I work within those boundaries. Whereas I was just kind of handing it to Davie, and then he would just move things around. So where a sentence would almost be in the middle, he'd be like, that's where I take my breath, and then move it to the next line. And we just kept doing that, and maybe like trim that word out. We don't need that. So we're editing and trying to find the song in real time. And yeah, it did. It happened really quickly. That was almost one of those things where you didn't want to mess with it too much or over question it, because it felt right, and that was good enough. We were both really surprised and pleased with it. So I don't think didn't have to nudge it much more than that, I don't think. But very, very strange, especially because I remember thinking, let's do that again, and then we hit the wall every time.
It's funny that, like, there's a thing, isn't there? It's like whenever you write a good song, you get really good at writing that one song. You're never like, that doesn't mean you're really good at writing all songs from then on in. It's like you're only ever really good at writing the song you just wrote, and then you basically start from like zero again with whatever. It felt like that. It was awesome.
You've obviously both made records before, but what does Promiser capture about you as people that no other record does?
I think I mean this as in a good way, but I think it's kind of like the least slick thing that I've done in a while. Like, personally, like in the terms of slick is not a very nice word for like things I've done. But like, high produced to a high, like really high kind of professional, like going into recording studios and doing it with people who really, really know what they're doing. And I think a lot of the records I love, going back to like Bonnie Prince Billy records, and things like that, they're not always recorded the best. They're just really good songs. And you kind of get the feeling like with a lot of them, they could have been recorded with anything and they would still be fantastic songs. And I think I'm really proud of the whole thing, the whole record in terms of like that kind of, let's get to the point of what we're doing, of like what this whole thing's like about. Let's write songs that mean something to us and move us, or mean something to us with where we're at in our lives right now, and musically embody that and record it to the best of our abilities, knowing that we're not geniuses in that realm. It's like, let's just do our best and put that out in the world and see what happens. And like, it's been really lovely because people are like relating to this very human thing on every level. It's not, again, it's not, I've made records where it's like 50 to 100 lead vocal takes or whatever, and then comped and stuff. This is like, again, it's like, this is take 2 for like, or take 3 or whatever for everything. And even with Josh Burnside and Emma, it was like, please do not spend hours and hours sculpting parts for this. We kind of want it to be instinctual and like, just go for it. And you are interesting musicians. That is why we're asking you to be a part of this. And we would love to hear your journey through the song. They were writing parts without knowing what each other were writing as well. So it's like, and they were recording them from separate places. And we were then putting that into the mix. And there were some just magical accidents that were happening all the time. So yeah, that's my main takeaway. Perhaps it feels like really honest or really true in that kind of, it's not hiding behind production or something.
I think like I'll second and underline something that Davie said in terms of it's we were writing songs that's true to our lives now. And I think that's kind of every record and every song is it's just a snapshot. It's like a photograph of a very specific time, and you will not always feel that way, if you ever feel exactly that way when you record something. And so it captures this very like crystallizes this time period. And I think we're very, very much in the same space, quite literally, and also just like emotionally. I think we were just very much united in that this is how we both feel right now, and let's try in the best way that we can to capture that with as as little kind of distraction as possible.
So it was pure trust from the start. There was no clashes at all. Everything went smooth.
Oh no, a couple of black eyes for me. It started out like, I think with like nervous hands and things like that, there were definitely times where we were like, no, I think it's okay, that line, or no. But it's like each of those things led to a breakthrough for something. You can't like expect to never have like moments where you can't just be agreeing on everything. There are definitely moments where I was like, I think that line's okay. And I was like, well, I think it could be more. But each time we questioned it, I do think it got to a better place. Nervous Hands is a really good example of that for me. I kind of thought the line was good enough. And then the line that we replaced it with is like pretty much like 60% of my relationship with the song comes from that line now being in it. Like it unlocks the song. So I was wrong. and that's okay to be wrong. It's not okay to fight for something that is wrong in the moment, but I was wrong. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I honestly, I feel like I've learned so much from being able to turn a song around constantly and look at it from all the different angles. Obviously, two different people are you're gonna have different sort of perspectives based on your own history, and then also what has happened in your life up to this point, what's currently happening, translations of things that seem really straightforward, and for one of us might be very confusing for the other. And so I really respect Davie for, at times if I kind of find that, oh no, this in my mind is the line, and to be challenged back on it, and then to know that we're doing this because we both want the song to be better, and it wasn't a case of, well, I'm just saying this because you're a piece of shit. It always felt like once we got beyond that initial, I think if any time there was, we had any sort of like conflict over a line, being able to like quickly move on and know that, okay, well, let's sit in it. Let's try to figure out where can we get to the point where both of us are really happy with it. And for me, it kind of felt like this kind of new layer of maturity where it's actually great to be able to deep dive into something. And yeah, like Davey said, you can't say yes to everything. Not everybody can agree. Otherwise, the song would be 20 minutes long, or both parties would probably walk away thinking, well, I'm never going to use that, but I just wanted to be polite. And I really admired the fact that, we were able to be very honest with each other. And it's because we care, we really care about the songs. It must be why people kind of resonate with the song Promiser, because it's, in my mind, it's not a big, summer banger. There's nothing that I kind of listen to and think, oh, it's really like the Chapel Row and stuff right now. It's kind of, it just exists as this thing, and this sort of earnest approach to it. I think that's maybe people resonate with the lyrics. It's quite difficult, I think, probably with us both being on the inside of it, to understand exactly why it has connected so much with people. But it's just, sometimes it's best to not even question it.
What's the thing that the other person brings to music that you don't, but you wish you had?
This is like Mr. and Mrs., isn't it? I personally feel, you know what?
We should have done it that way, actually. We should have
I
brought
know,
you
exactly.
on.
Yeah. Same questions and be like, do you know what he said about you? I think Davey has an incredible knack for, and we talked about this in person as well, and he's a serious knack for melodies and choruses and things that I think I've always kind of steered away from because I've been afraid of them. And I've never felt comfortable in that world. And whereas I feel like, and again, listen to and sitting alongside Davey working on these songs, there was always like a clear destination and a payoff, which I would be guilty of meandering around. And I know in myself that that's something that I would kind of like actively steer away from. And it's just this, I wouldn't have the confidence to pull it off. And so in terms of what I was meeting across the table was someone who was, in my mind, was like, that's the person that's going to get me to kind of like, to the lighthouse of the song, to like, if there is a core of the song, if there has to be this kind of anchor, then I felt like Davey is the right guy to be working with, in terms of not only will we get there, but we'll get there in a way that's going to feel fulfilling, especially when you take into account the kind of the decision that we made very early on to strip away production, because then you don't, if you want a big chorus or whatever, or just a moment that feels satisfying, you've less kind of ways in order to underline that and to give an audience clues, as the big kind of like, flashing lights to say, here it comes, this is the moment. And so with those limitations, I kind of felt like, yeah, Davey sort of steered us really nicely into those, an area that I wouldn't have had any confidence or comfortable in, with being able to navigate around.
I think that's really nice. This is like the Mr. and Mrs. I mean,
this is going to be the Mr. and Mrs. special.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Ciaran, I think, has say many things. Like, I mean, like on a purely like singing, well, I think Ciaran's just got such a beautiful voice that's really interesting and unique. I'm very envious of his voice, and then his songwriting. I think it's going back to that kind of more. I feel like Ciaran is very who he is as a person and how he writes lyrics are us connected. Really like quite similar. Like there's a sorry, maybe this is wrong in your mind, Ciaran, but I feel like the way you write lyrics is very like how you speak, in the same way that Frank O'Hara's poems are, or Billy Collins' poems are. But it's like it feels like this could be something someone's saying to you in the moment. And I feel like I perhaps have this not like sensationalist way of writing songs, but like and maybe this speaks to the kind of like structure and choruses and my inner need for big choruses or whatever. But it's like, I think perhaps I like those things. They help give me sort of structure and purpose when I'm writing songs. But I also really admire the kind of fluidity of Ciaran's approach to writing songs, and his ability to speak from a very real, true place that's not far from things he would say. to you. And I think maybe my songs feel slightly more removed from me as a person somehow. They're very intimate, but I don't know how to describe it. There's a slight difference there. So I was learning a lot from working with Ciaran.
Davie, with Kevin recently stepping away from Birdsong, did this project feel like a creative reset or a reminder that, what you love most about collaboration?
Yeah, I think for me, it couldn't have really come at a better time. I think I was definitely just feeling not ready for the next chapter of whatever Birdsong was going to do next. And I think I'm quite new to co-writing and that sort of stuff, and I had no ambitions for like a solo album or anything. But Ciaran and I were just speaking and throwing ideas at each other, and they felt really fun to listen to. And I think for me it was like, let's just make something that has. And at the time, I don't think we knew what we were doing. I don't think we knew it was going to be a Birdsong and Ciaran EP. I think it was at one point it was going to be like an Andrew Davie and Ciaran Lavery release. At one point we were going to have like a band name and just be a different band. And then I like the way things are like all sort of ended up is it's kind of become this other thing. But yeah, I think for me it was just a chance to strip away everything really and just start something in a very pure way that didn't feel high pressure or have any great expectations attached to it. It was just like let's just write songs with this really cool guy who's a great songwriter and see what happens. And I think music can become a lot more complicated than that, but at its best is just that. Like, let's have fun with mates making cool stuff. Yeah.
And Ciaran, did working with Davie tap into a part of your creativity that solo work doesn't always reach?
I would say that it was working with Davie on these songs and just working with Davie in general. It gave me this. It was almost this reminder of like starting with music and how much of a focus when I didn't have any kind of money or didn't have a band and didn't have album 1, 2 behind to kind of be like, oh, I want to do something different. It was all very much when I didn't have any of that. It's based around trying to write good songs and just trying to write something that I would be happy and proud, very, very quietly and painfully proud of in my room, playing it back to myself. And so I think the process was, I know I mentioned before in terms of it just being so refreshing. And it was like a real reminder as to what is at the heart of all music in terms of, they're just great songs, a great song, no matter how you dress it up. But so the shit one, So I think I really loved the idea of getting back to what songwriting at its very core. That's just what it is. It's very, especially in this kind of genre that we both operate in, it can be very gentle and quiet and very powerful and emotive and and all of those things. And so, strip away the genres and we're just two people trying to write as good a song and few songs that we put together as we could. So, and yeah, I'll second Davie in terms of, writing without a pressure it was one of the first times that I've been able to do that. And I think the project probably, was aided because of this kind of lack of any weight or any sort of anything overbearing or hanging over what we were trying to do.
And do you think collaborations like this help reset your creativity or even change how you approach your next solo project, Ciaran, or band project for you, Davie?
I actually think we've just finished a little tour together as well. And that was a kind of reset on a number of levels as well. It was just acoustic. We kind of just wanted to play fully acoustic for a little while. So that was just me, Christoph and Marcus from Birdsong for 4 shows. And that was kind of about reconnecting with the songs on a really, really basic level. Like, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? Like, just remembering that, it kind of like we've played the Limelight in Belfast with 6 people on stage and with 3, and the response wasn't that different. And I think maybe I'm starting to feel that kind of hunger for just like I want to hear like a real person going through something and that be a bit exposed at the moment. I think maybe I am, like, going back to your initial question of like, is there a hunger for like that more DIY thing? Maybe there is just a bit of a hunger for like really feeling what you're doing. And when you've got like in-ear monitoring and you're playing, electric guitar through like amp profilers and things like that, sometimes you can get more and more removed from the like just a bunch of people in a room making music together that we can all hear and listen to. And again, music can be more complicated, and as you go through the stages of albums, etc., that it becomes more textured and complicated. Sometimes it's really important to just like clear the decks, go right back to the roots of what you're doing, literally. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed performing those songs, our songs together, like with Ciaran and Christoph and Marcus, then jumping into that. It's like really special for both of us, I'm sure. And hearing Ciaran's solo songs as well was really like just beautiful every night as well. So yeah.
Yeah, you just finished there, eh, Sean? Dublin sold out in, I think, 24 hours, and the Belfast show had to be upgraded. So did you feel that excitement from the crowd straight away?
Yeah, like, I mean, it was pretty like, I really didn't know what to expect. Like, we never really know. It had been a while since we'd played in either city, and obviously with Galway and Cork, we'd never been before, so we really didn't know what to expect there. Shows in Ireland, Northern Ireland, just always incredible. But yeah, that was overwhelmingly great. But yeah, we'd kind of made the decision before going that it was just going to be a very intimate thing, and then Limelight was the venue, the only upgrade we could find. It's such a cool room. They were kind of progressively rowdy in between songs, and then like as soon as we'd start a song, they just like was so quiet and so respectful. And like, I mean, I keep going back to it, but getting to play Promiser and Timbuktu as well live was a real like, it was just really special. And to play it to like, I don't know, to those people was really lovely, and their reaction to it was so heartwarming as well. And yeah, because Ciaran and I wrote this stuff, but then we haven't played it for a little while, and we never really knew how we'd tour it or release it or anything, and it all came together really neatly. Yeah, but sort of a bit like everything to do with this project, kind of a bit of an accident, but kind of it ended up coming together with this little tour as well, which is really lovely.
During the shows, did you notice a moment in the crowd, maybe a silence, a sing-along, or a reaction where you thought, this music is landing exactly as we hoped?
I think part of what I really enjoy about live music and playing with Bez then is playing with dynamics. So like having big loud moments and then just bringing it right back to being in the audience and playing without any microphones or anything. And the playing with that, when you're just a three, you have to find the way of being that dynamic with less stuff. I just love the how dynamic it brings out a whole new level of subtlety to the dynamics of performing, which makes it sound really like we're thinking about that stuff a lot. It's all quite subconscious, but you just like how intimate you can make things and how big you can make things. It's just really fun to play with that. And I just really enjoy kind of sensing from the room, like, can I do this? Do I need to sing into the microphone here? Or can I just sing off the microphone? And can the audience sing this actually? Do I need to sing it? Like, I love playing with that and letting the audience kind of dictate what happens a little bit. And then it kind of makes every show unique, which is also really lovely.
And Ciaran, what was it like opening solo and then stepping back on stage later with Davie each night?
I mean, it's the first time it's ever happened. So it was really lovely to be, invited back out again. The fact that we were playing Promiser, Davie and Christoph and Marcus joined me at the end of my set. So it felt like a nice little, almost like that's the kind of checked off the end of my set, but also with this nice dynamic high. And then it would come back on and we would play Promiser together in the encore. To me, it was just like the whole experience was pretty much just, I was in bonus town, essentially. It was, as the opener, you kind of nothing really to lose. The fact that we have something to kind of shout about together makes it really special. And, the moments when I could see the audience and see people singing along. I know Nikki had said to me there was someone in the front row in Belfast was singing every word of Promiser, and I thought, yeah, it's only been out like a week or whatever. And then the same in Dublin. I remember just meeting eyes with this girl in the front row, and she was just like eyeballing Davie, singing every line. And it's really cool. It's something that I think, and I know I said to Davie and the guys as well, from sitting on, kind of watching it from the side as well. It was probably the most free, and sort of, there was this really beautiful environment where audience and the stage kind of just that disappeared, that sort of separation, and to watch that every night, and feel that sort of connection. So by the time I came on, cruised on for the for Promiser and the encore, like, it was pretty much, slam dunk territory. Never used that analogy in my life. Slam dunk territory. What the fuck does that mean?
I know exactly what it means.
I know what it means too.
Alley-oop territory. Yeah, that's my full basketball term.
Yeah.
Tell me, both of you, one moment from making Promiser that you'll never forget.
I think it's hard to pinpoint a single thing. Promiser itself is a song I'll never forget being in the room for. That was like genuine magic, I think. And so that was like pretty amazing. I know it's a bit of a cop-out, but like Ciaran coming and staying for a week was like, oh cool, we're gonna write some songs. But like we wrote like so many songs, and like just had really nice like dinners with the family, and like Ciaran was just really lovely, and we've got like a book for my daughter, and my daughter still reads that book now, and it's a really lovely book, and like that book like influenced conversations around the artwork. Like it just all felt like, maybe like cheesy, but just like a really like great week. Like it just felt really nice. Like it wasn't just making, I don't know, like when I work on my own, sometimes I feel like I don't have a very good work-life balance at all, and this felt really like we had that, and we're achieving a lot, and had time for other things, and so that was just really nice, and yeah, so I guess it's probably that for me.
Yep. Funny. I was just gonna say I know it's not a slight on the music at all, and on kind of being in the studio, but my favorite times were when we could sit in the evening and just talk as a group, and Davey's wife there, and we just having conversation. It just felt as if we did the thing that we needed to do, and it's very seldom that you get to like hug out and walk across, the garden, and suddenly, and getting to observe, this family unit, and being kind of like with open arms invited into it. I just thought was, again, I don't really like being away from home. I don't really like traveling too much, but it felt really lovely to be around that sort of, again, a very warm family environment, and so those were my favorite times, where we kind of took our break around like 6:30, and Davey would, like switch the hat and go into dad mode, and I'd just be, downstairs with Abs, just talking, just at the kitchen table. And again, it was like, it kind of felt like the perfect ideal balance, where you could go out and we knew we were actually doing work and not just pissing around, and ticking off, the boxes, and then come in and still, be there for like, have all the conversations, really interesting chats, and just lovely kind of the other side of life as well. So that for me, I'll second that. That was just like, that's what I always take away from the experience, was how lovely it was, and how easy it was to kind of, especially in someone else's space as well. It felt very homely. So yeah, I'm grateful for that.
Okay, I'm going to put you both on the spot here. What's your favorite song or album of the others, and why?
That's a really difficult one.
Going through your catalogue.
Get the Spotify out there.
Go for it.
There was a song I used to hear on the European run, and it was stuck in my head for so long. I will say, from I actually had a conversation with a guy today. I was doing a co-write with a guy, Jack Devlin, who's a great singer-songwriter, and he was talking about how he learned Bobby Clouds of Pompeii, and he was just doing like he's doing cover gigs and stuff, and he's like, I really want to learn some Birdsong. And he said he knew that song, thought he knew that song anyway. And he said he was playing through the song, reading the lyrics as he was, learning it. And he said he just broke down because he said the first time that he understood the song because he had the lyrics in front of him and he was playing it, and it was like his moment of, oh shit, this is what this is about. And I think there's something really special about that song, especially because it comes in so fast. It's just like straight in, visually really strong, and it covers so much ground. Again, it's one of those songs where people do all this big sing along clap, and it's the one where I keep thinking, this is not a happy song. It is really, it's kind of like a heavyweight kind of songwriting in terms of this ability to create something that's public facing, but also so much behind it, like the old Joy Division trick of, get them to dance and stuff, but really underneath it is just, there's so much darkness. And so I think, and especially getting to see the guys play that every night was really special. But again, I will say very strange that people are so happy singing along, and it's like,
I don't know. Yeah, that is a bizarre thing. Like, yeah.
You've nailed it if you can do that.
Well, yeah. Oh, bless. Yeah, it's very, very kind. Like, yeah, I mean, that's just the nicest thing ever. I mean, like for me, I think my favorite songs of Ciaran's, it's really hard, but we've actually sung one of my favorites, which is Shame, which I think is amazing. Obviously, it's like just incredible. But I think my favorite Ciaran song is actually a song that he put forward for this project that we haven't done yet. There's a couple in that I think are like unbelievably good that he hasn't released yet. That I still think are like the makings of a solo record. There was one called Same Trains, which I thought, which at one point I thought was going to be the name of this. I just like that. It's such a cool song and idea, and I love it so much. We also did a recording of a song. I can't remember if it was just called Brother, but it was like, it was so beautiful. And I was playing a baritone guitar and you were at the piano, and it was so cool. And it was like one of the, before we did the like, let's start from a blank sheet of paper. I've got a demo of that somewhere as well. And that's like, basically Ciaran's got like another album or two just sat in his back pocket with loads of great songs just sitting there. But yeah, like, I don't think he's made a bad record. I think Light Entertainment is incredible as well. Like, I mean, yeah, just too many good songs.
What song or album from another band or artist brings back the best memories for you personally?
This is the time when you can't even think of any songs or albums. You're just like,
yeah. If you just said name any song or album ever, I would be a struggle. I think it feels like a cop out, but when I just started like being in a band, like with Bears Den and stuff, the first tours we went on, this is maybe the band before Bears Den, which is called Cherbourg. And the first tours I went on, do you remember that band MGMT?
Yeah.
And their record with like Kids and Electric Feel had just come out. And like, I just remember being like, I'd left school like the year before, and it's like first times getting in a van together and just being like, this is fucking awesome. Just hearing, like, listening to that music really loud, going from like playing to 2 people in Leeds, going to play to 5 people in Manchester. Yeah, let's go. Like, we're going to take over the world, one person at a time, listening to this like fantastic music. So yeah, that takes me back to a really special time.
I'll go for the Green Day Insomniac album, which I love that record because it's very rough around the edges, kind of coming out of the Dookie album. Again, I have like that. I think there's always like a record or song that you can, as soon as you hear it, it transports you back to that, like an actual definitive moment. And for some reason, I don't know why. Well, I do know why, but I don't know why that is the memory that my brain has chosen to latch onto, because God knows the amount of important information that I've definitely I've sacrificed for this. But every time I hear that album, I always think of this Spider-Man game that I was playing on the PlayStation at the time. That was so fucking annoying. And I remember a certain element of it where I couldn't just do something. It was like something really simple, like get over a wall. get over the fucking wall. I think that album, because it was so short, it was like probably sub 30 minutes. I must have been struggling on that wall for like 2 albums. And I ended up presenting the album in short term because, it just kept reminding me of that frustration. But it's also like, I guess, a reminder of how music can do that. Can just, it's that time machine that just sends you back to that, specific moment. I'm sure like with yours, Davey, you would probably like, you can smell that van.
Yeah. Not good. Not a good smell.
Yeah.
No, it's no, totally.
Yeah, talking about music bringing you back. Finally, when you listen back to Promiser in 10 years, what version of yourself will you be hearing?
Oh, that's really philosophical.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yes.
I think like I don't know if it's partly like where you're at with like age and also like life stuff, but I think it's interesting that we both wanted to do that. Like there's something in that that's interesting, and maybe in 10 years' time, who knows what those records will sound like. The records we'll be making will sound like. I have hopes that we could kind of continue to like keep doing stuff. Like maybe not like the kind of thing every year, but like maybe we just keep adding to this little body of work, and just when it feels right, just spend like those 5 days and just not try and recapture anything that I think doesn't really work, but try and just like, this is where we're at now. Let's just put out another. And I think on some level, to me, the project is like Promiser is like the name of the project as well as the EP. And so I think I like the idea of it blossoming into something that we just return to every couple of years. Like before, it'd be our version of Before Midnight, Before Sunset, or whatever that the movie trilogy is. But like, yeah, I think maybe we're both at a phase where stripping things away to see what's there is the thing. And maybe we'll get super maximalist the next thing. Maybe in 10 years' time, we're in exactly the same kind of place. We just want to strip things back again. Who knows? Yes.
I find it very hard to kind of send my thoughts forward. I mean, I know I'll still be really, really proud of it, because I think it'll sit in its own unique space. I think that's for, the one thing I'm certain about is that I don't think it will be replicated. And I'm glad that Dave and I both feel the same in terms of, this isn't a template for, oh, now this works, so let's do that again, because then, what's the point? The fun was because we were trying to figure out what it was, and creating those limitations was kind of like part of the process. But I wouldn't necessarily want to go in and just apply that again and expect the same results, because then I think that's maybe where you come out feeling, well, run the risk of it being like a little disappointing, or there'd be shortcomings. So, but I think like in terms of even now, when I look at like the music that I've released in the previous 10 years, it sits among kind of I base it all on just like, did I enjoy the process? I don't really, it's really difficult to control any of the responses, but like it did exactly what we wanted it to do, in terms of we wanted it to sound a certain way, and it came out sounding a certain way, and it was the way that we wanted, which, based on the experience that I've had making records, and maybe Davey can say the same. Maybe I imagine it's even more difficult when you've got other people around you who also have a certain say in a band, but very rare that you can go in with this kind of idea and come out the other side with the idea realized. There's always some element of it, trying things, bit of trial and error, and also compromise. So I'm desperately proud that what we went in to achieve, we come out the other side with that kind of fully formed. And in 10 years, it'll probably be heading into like secondary school or whatever. Probably be a difficult teenager. I don't know.
Well, Ciaran, Davie, that's me done. I really enjoyed the XS Noize Podcast, Mr. and Mrs. edition. And yeah, I've really loved the EP. Really, really enjoyed listening to it for this here.
Great. Thanks for having us, Mark. Honestly, thank you. It's lovely to talk about the record, and thanks so much for all the really thoughtful questions.
Thanks so much, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Good stuff. Take it easy.
Bye, mate.
See you later. Bye.